Hi, my name is Connor Cruson, and today we're going to be talking about Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia O'Keeffe was born on November 15th, 1887 in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Growing up with the vast landscape and greenery around her, she inspired her to create naturalistic works in her later years. She had started art lessons with her younger sister at the age of 10. In 1905, she started her advanced training at the Art Institute of Chicago, where she had the top marks of her class. After the Chicago Art Institute, she attended the Art Students League in New York City in 1907. All of her schooling up to this point had emphasized the traditional realism style of art. Despite learning some very important techniques, she was unsatisfied with the traditional approach because it had been done before and it had no nuance. This changed when she met Arthur Wesley Dow. Born April 6, 1857 in Ipswich, Massachusetts, Dow was a renowned American painter, photographer, and printmaker. He was known for his teachings based on the Japanese principles of art. His emphasis on the composition and design enlightened O'Keeffe on an alternative to the traditional realism she was used to. In 1915, O'Keeffe began a series of charcoal drawings that represented a radical break in tradition. This was her first produced work that was later honored by other people. She became known as one of the first Americans to practice pure abstraction. These drawings were simply titled in the order she made them rather than specific titles for each one. She sent these charcoal works to a friend who showed them to renowned art dealer Alfred Stieglitz, who was an internationally known photographer as well. These are a couple of her works. We have Drawing 8, Drawing 2, and Drawing 5. There are many more in this collection. These are just a couple examples. You can see the drawing number 2 displays a flower almost. You can see the pistils of the like the reproductive organs of the flower, and so on. So the start of O'Keeffe's career. Alfred Stieglitz was completely blown away by O'Keeffe's charcoal abstractions and immediately fell in love with her as an artist. He featured her drawings in his famous 291 gallery in New York City without her permission. O'Keeffe actually showed up to the gallery, looking at another artist, noticed her paintings there, and said, "You got to take these down." Instead, he talked to her, convinced her to pursue this passion of hers and create art. In 1919, O'Keeffe produced some of the most extraordinary paintings of her career with the help and funding of Stieglitz. By the mid-1920s, she was seen as one of the most important and successful artists, depicting New York skyscrapers, which embodied the idea of American modernity that was slowly becoming more popular in America at this time. Around this time, Stieglitz also became her husband. Here we can see the Radiator Building of New York City in 1927. You can notice it's not necessarily a very detailed picture, but it's very you can notice like the subtle nuances of her artwork and style through this image. In 1929, O'Keeffe made a summer trip to New Mexico, which she would later return to continuously to practice her work. She was taken back by the breathtaking rock formations and scenery, and it immediately inspired a new direction of her artwork. New Mexico was essentially her solitude, and it was said she found great joy in being there. After an affair between Stieglitz and another woman became very public and scandalous, O'Keeffe had a nervous breakdown. She was in recovery for about a year and a half and did not produce artwork for a long time. After Stieglitz's death in the mid-1940s, she moved back to New Mexico, where it became her permanent residence. Her unique depiction of the New Mexico landscape had fueled American modernists for desire for more regional landscapes. Throughout the 50s and 60s, she produced a lot of art of this nature. In 1970, the Whitney Museum of American Art showcased her work for a new generation of viewers, versus the people who were originally viewing her work back when she was still married to Stieglitz. It was about a 30-year difference. So this we can see some of her artwork she made in New Mexico, the Black Mesa landscape. It's often said that her artwork resembles the female anatomy, such as the vulva and vagina, but O'Keeffe continually disregards this and says, no, they're just flowers, they're just mountains, there's nothing sexual about them. Here we can see the Taos Mountain, New Mexico, also done in 1930. She has like a very simplistic view of the world, but somehow her emotions are shown in the colors she chooses and the textures that she makes. So she says a lot with a little. A couple theories on art. A great quote by O'Keeffe If I could paint a flower exactly as I see it, no one would see what I see, because I would paint it small like the flower is small. So I said to myself, I'll paint what I see, what the flower is to me, but I'll paint it big so that they will be surprised into taking time to look at it. I will even make busy New Yorkers take time to see what I see of flowers. Many art interpreters saw O'Keeffe's work as having feminist undertones because her flower pieces resembled the female vagina. Despite this, O'Keeffe insisted it was only flowers and had nothing to do with female anatomy. Georgia O'Keeffe's art was seen as art for delight and self-expression. She wanted to depict a scenery as she felt it rather than she saw it, which is why her art style transcends realism and abstraction. People viewed her art as pouring her whole emotion into each piece she worked on, which is why her art is beautiful and emotional at the same time. Her primary art mediums were oil on canvas, charcoal, or clay. Despite failing eyesight, O'Keeffe continued to make artwork. She lived her final days in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where she finally passed away on March 8, 1986. Georgia O'Keeffe's legacy lives on today, with her art still being appreciated by millions. O'Keeffe was an inspiration to women everywhere because she's one of the first renowned female artists. Here's a couple of her works. This is the Jimson Weed, done in 1936. This is a very popular piece by her, which I've seen a lot around. It's called The Calico with Calico Roses, done in 1931. This is like a very, very signature to the New Mexico landscape because of the dry weather, which would cause this type of landscape to appear, like skulls and just dryness. It's kind of what it embodied. Here we can see the Sky Above the Clouds, number 4. So she actually did several Sky Above Clouds. This was the 4th one in the series of the Sky Above Clouds she did, done in 1965. Then we can see the Red Hill and the White Shell, which is very, very Georgia O'Keeffe style, with the big shell, small mountain, vibrant colors. Not too much detail in the edges, but they kind of like mush together to make it look like a very solid artwork. And thank you for watching. This is Georgia O'Keeffe by Connor Cruson, and I hope you have more information on the wonderful artist that Georgia O'Keeffe was.